they're going to be taking a flight here to San Diego. They're going to San Diego. So our flight is approximately an hour and 15 minutes. And we turn off the flight so people can.
Flight attendants, you guys good? Alright, so just in case you didn't know, this is supposed to be airline food snacks. Okay, cool. So the goal of my 20% project was basically to learn to fly. I was going to fly a one-prop like propeller plane, which would be considered a Cessna. So I'm not learning to fly any like jumbo jet or commercial airline or anything. And I really enjoyed this project, even though it was pretty difficult. And there was a lot to learn and a lot to remember, but I knew it was going to be difficult from the start, and I enjoyed what I did. And I may or may not continue to work on it. I may just, I don't know, go up with an instructor again. I don't know if I'm going to keep going to get my license right now because of high school and all that fun stuff coming up. So, I have like a PowerPoint presentation about the stuff I learned, some of the stuff I learned, and what it takes to be a pilot, and I have some videos and pictures of when I actually went up and flew. So first, there's ground school. Are we doing questions? Okay.
Why is it called ground school?
Okay, yeah, okay, that's a fair question. So, ground school, it's called ground school because it's when he or she, the pilot, learns everything they need to know about the plane. I listed something there, so basics of flight, plane, safety procedures, emergency procedures, weather, communications, instruments, things like that. And that's all stuff you learn on the ground before you actually get in the plane and fly. So the basics of flight. So first of all, we have thrust, which is what the propeller or on a larger airline, the turbines are doing. They are pulling the plane forward through the air. But for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So for thrust, we have drag, which is the air and the friction of the tires pushing back on the plane, trying to slow it down. And then we have the same thing with lift, which is what the wings are doing, which I'll explain how that works in a second. And gravity, which is self-explanatory. So how the wings work is while the plane is moving forward, air is flowing over the wings, but the wings are shaped so that they're rounded on the top and they're flat on the bottom, so that the air going over the top has to move faster than the air on the bottom to meet up with it in the same spot on the other side of the wing. So that creates a lower pressure zone on the top and a higher pressure zone on the bottom, which creates lift, which pushes the wing up, which pulls the rest of the plane with it. So here I have double diagrams of the plane and parts of the plane, important parts of the plane anyway. So here on this one over here, the whole body of the plane, just the main part, if you took off all the wings from the propeller, that is called the fuselage. That's where you sit and where the fuel goes and anything like that. And then here we have the rudder, which is the vertical stabilizer, which is the controller of one of the three axes, which are important to learn, and the elevators, which control, which are the ones you can only see the side of right now, which control the second axis. I'll talk about all the axes in a second. On the top view, though, you can see the ailerons, which are really important. That's what controls the third axis, which is roll, so that makes the plane dip side to side. And then the rudder that I talked about just a second ago makes the nose of the plane go side to side, so that's yaw. And then the elevators make the nose of the plane go up and down, which is how you take off and land, which is pitch. And then also in here we have the flaps, which are important for takeoff and landing. They, when you're landing, they stop the airflow over the wing, making you slow down because it creates drag and making you lose altitude. But when you take off, it creates more surface area under the wing, so you lift up faster. So here are the instruments. If you can't see them, I can't really zoom in. It doesn't work for some reason. But this right here in the center, that's called the six-pack of the plane, which are pretty much the most important 6 instruments. So on the top left, you have your airspeed indicator, which is really just a speedometer, but in a plane, and it goes in knots instead of miles an hour. Right next to that is the attitude indicator. So that white line in the middle is the horizon, and you are the orange lines, those are the wings of your plane, and that shows you where you are in relationship to the horizon on the 3 axes. And then to the right of that is pretty much the most important instrument. It's called your altimeter, and you have to set that depending on like the density of the air and where you are above sea level, so that while you're flying, the numbers goes up and it tells you how high you are, and when you go down, it goes down and it tells you how high you are again. But that's important because if you set it wrong, then you could be coming in for landing and it could tell you that, say, the runway's here and you're right here, but the runway could actually be right here or right here. And either of those scenarios, that would mean you would crash, and that would not be fun. On the bottom left, that's not as important. That's your turn angle indicator, which is really just for the comfort of the passengers. You want your 2 wings, they turn like this, right, in that dial, and you want them to go to the opposite line and not past, or else it can make people sick in the back. Next to that is just your compass. You have another one up there in the middle. It's just to tell you which direction you're facing, which is always helpful. And then, last but not least, you have your vertical speed indicator, which tells you how fast you're going up or down. Alright. Normally you want to stay around 5 on both sides. 10 through 20 normally get a little uncomfortable for the passengers to get in dangerous, and you could possibly stall, would stall. The rest of the instruments are nav instruments. Over on the right, you have your fuel and your oil over on the left. And then down here, you have all your lights. You have your master switches. You have your magnetos, which is basically just the on-off switch for the plane. And over here, you have your throttle and mixture and things like that. So, getting off the ground. So the walk-around is a really important part of, I guess it'd be flying. It's really important though, and it's literally like in the bottom picture down there, in the bottom right. That is literally what you are doing. You are walking around the plane, and you're checking your gas and oil to make sure there's nothing diluting it, and you have to make sure you have enough of it so that you can get where you're going and back. You have to check for dents or cracks or anything like that, because you can't be flying with half a propeller missing or like a big chunk out of your wing or anything like that. So you have to make sure you're good there. You have to make sure that all the flaps and the ailerons are connected and moving well, and they're not going to fall off or get jammed in the air, because that can be dangerous. And you have to check for nails or holes or flat tires or anything like that relating to the tires. And you actually have to check for animals and birds nesting in your air intakes, which are 2 little holes on the front where air goes in. Because if there is anything in there, then it will ruin the plane and it will kill the animal when you turn it on. So starting up is when you turn on the plane. So you have to contact ATIS, which is the air traffic information system. And it tells you the information you need. So it'll tell you what the weather is like. It'll tell you where the clouds are and things like that. It'll tell you the wind. It'll tell you what to set your altimeter to, which is really important. And it'll tell you the hour code. The hour code is what you tell the ground and tower. You just say it at the end of whatever you're saying when you're requesting for taxi, so they know who you are. You have to test your engine, so you just put on the brakes and you rev, and then you bring it back down, you set your altimeter, and then you radio ground and you get clearance to go up to the runway. So, fine. So, takeoff is fairly self-explanatory, and I have 2 videos. I'm going to turn down the sound so that I can kind of talk about what we're doing while they're playing, but here. So, thank you. So, this is me over on the left in the pilot seat, and that is my instructor over on the right in the co-pilot seat. So, we just got clearance to go onto the runway, so we're lining up. And right now, so yeah, we're throttling up. But the hard part about taking off is that, so you have one propeller, and that propeller is spinning one way, normally to the left, yeah? Which means that the plane wants to be pulled in that direction because of the momentum from the propeller. So you have to make sure you counteract that correctly, or else you could flip over and it won't be good. So right here, we just took off. One thing, these little planes are really easy to take off because they're so small. They basically take off themselves. And right here, we're trying to gain altitude really quickly, and then we're waving at my dad and brother. We're trying to gain altitude really quickly because if something bad happens right after takeoff, that's why takeoff is so dangerous, you normally don't have a lot of room to turn around and land, or to point your nose down and gain speed and land on a highway or some area like that. So we're trying to gain altitude really quickly here, and in a minute, so we're exiting the landing pattern right now, and we're going to be turning right over the bay to Livermore. We do some stuff over there, and then we come back. Oh yeah, and this is, we took off from San Carlos here. Oh, yeah. You guys want to watch the rest of this? Yes, like, yeah.
Was that your first time up coming, or was that?
And when we got over to Livermore, we did some, like G-turns and stuff, so we could feel G's. I didn't want to do stall, but we could have. It's actually, I don't know if you can tell or not, it's actually quite cramped in there, especially for the people on my back. My mom was in the back of the plane, and she had about this much leg room. There's not a lot of space in those planes. But yeah, so I have that video, and then if you want, I have one from outside the plane. That was taken. Yeah. Alright, cool. Oh, wait, why is it just no, okay, hold up.
Remember last time you had to go to the other?
I know, it's not working. There. So you can't really see us. We're not under a We are not that plane right there. We are not that person. We are. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is right by Hillary Aviation Museum. We are right there. Like a really small, right above his leg. See that? That is right there.
Can I ask one question?
See that?
How much?
See it? See it? It's like
This plane doesn't need a lot. No. I don't actually know. So, yeah. And then we're waiting. We had to wait. We kind of did that late, but we had to wait a second because if we did it with too little altitude, then that could have screwed up our takeoff. And that, so yeah. So after takeoff, there's not much that goes on other than sitting there. It's not. It's harder, but it's not that difficult. So after you fly around and do whatever you want to do, you have to eventually come back, and that's when landing comes in. So landing, the runway we came in was going the other way, so everybody was going in the opposite direction on the pattern. But I'm just using this for reference. Do you have a question? No. Okay. So we came out and we took off. We came out like this, and around here we turned right and we went where we wanted to go. But we came in around here and then came down in that way. But just how it normally works, you come in at about 45 degrees and then you enter the downwind, which is where you normally start putting your flaps down and you start to decrease speed. And then you get to base, which is if you have the option, you put down your landing gear and then you start to decrease altitude. And then if there aren't any more planes in front of you and you're cleared, you go to final and you land and then you pull off and you taxi to where you're going to park. But oftentimes there's other planes in front of you, so you go to upwind and you go around again and you do that until you're able to land. At bigger airports like SFO, they have like areas where the big jumbo jets fly out and they fly in circles until they're able to land. So it's different for the bigger airports, but this is how it works with the smaller aviation. And then a video of our landing. It's quite long, so I might skip a section of it. What happened?
It's just the right side of the mouse pad activates all this for the extra computer stuff that I don't know how it works. Just press escape maybe.
Okay. So we're coming in here, and it's actually really windy when we're coming into land. You'll see right before we touch down, we start getting buffeted by the wind really hard, and in side to side. So, and a little bit before we land, my instructor takes control and actually lands the plane. I'm not good enough to land. That was my first time going up. I'm not landing a plane, especially with the kind of winds we had. So, yeah, we're coming in, and you can see there, our speed is actually really low right now. We're going at like 60 knots. So the plane can go down to about 40 or 50 up in the air. So, but you normally like to fly around 100-ish. So we come in right here, and then we pull out our throttle a lot, and we kind of fall. And we sort of free fall, but we're more like gliding, and we lose a lot of altitude really quickly. And come in for a nice landing. And right when we land, I'll actually turn it up so you can hear it. Right when we land, you're gonna hear like a screeching noise. That's called a stall horn. That's something that goes off when the plane is turned up at a certain angle. It goes off, warning you, hey, you're losing a lot of speed. You're gonna start falling. You're gonna stall. If you need to start losing altitude. So right here, we're getting buffeted by the wind. And so right here we flare, which means you're coming in like this, and then you go like this, so the back hits. That's a small horn. Weird sounding thing. So that's considered a really good landing. If you can stall right when you land, right when the stall horn goes off, that's considered a good landing. So you can tell I didn't do that one. So that's all I have. So thank you.
I noticed that, like, when flying off the plane, that when you land, in case the plane pushes down too much, you have the throttle a little bit over 0, so that you can pull up in place.
Yeah, in Cessna, right when you're landing, you have the throttle completely off. You have no power when you're landing, and then sometimes to help, you'll put in a little bit right there to help you get that up there. Jack?
Okay, so like on a scale from 1 to 10, like how comfortable do you feel like flying this plane? Like 1 being like if you were flying this plane by your own hands, you like crash instantly, and 10 being like if you are on these planes, what happens? You're letting the pilot pass out, you could like land it.
I'd say a 7 maybe, because I'm not that good with the radio yet. The radio is quite complicated and it's hard to grasp. So my instructor did all the radio stuff, and he did do the landing. Maybe if there were like no wind and I didn't have to do radio, I could land it. But other than that, I feel pretty confident though. Yeah.
What were the easiest and the harder parts about your project?
I don't think there were really that many easy parts, other than saying that I wanted to do it. And yeah, it was all pretty hard, and I enjoyed it though. It was pretty difficult, and it did actually change. It did change throughout the year. At the beginning, I was shooting to actually make it all the way through ground school, and then I'd be able to continue on to work and get hours of flying until I could get my license at 17. But I changed that to just going up and just doing a flight and just reading and not crashing and running. A lot of times, like flying, it may not be you, but flying kind of seems dull. Like once you're in the air and you're kind of just sitting there, it's actually really complicated. It's like 5 things you have to focus on at the same time. So in that way, yeah.
Couple more questions.
So,
Is it in any way like being on a roller coaster?
it can be. I mean, we did a D-turn, which had that. So normally, like the hardest turn you want to take is around 30 degrees. It's like here, right? And then we went farther. We went to about 45 degrees. And then because of that, the nose wants to start falling, so we have to pull up at the same time, which means you experience some G's there. So now it's like a roller coaster. I mean, I guess if you want like that, it's kind of like a roller coaster, but that's normally not something you do. You go good?